Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into some incredibly fascinating source material that exposes a silent biological crisis happening right now, deep inside our own cells. We are talking about a vital nutrient that literally acts as the electrical current for your entire body. And yet, the vast majority of us are running on completely empty without even realizing it. Okay, first things first, you've got to know this staggering number, 4,700 milligrams. That is the absolute bare bones amount of potassium the average person needs every single day. And keep in mind, the source data points out that this is just the recommended minimum just to get by. This isn't even the therapeutic dose you'd need to actually fix an existing health issue. To really put that into perspective, just think about other nutrients we always hear about. Calcium, magnesium, vitamin C. None of them even come close to this kind of daily benchmark. It's not even a contest. Your biological machinery simply demands a massive, massive volume of this specific mineral just to function properly. Now, because that target number is literally a mountain to climb, the statistics are, well, they're honestly shocking. 97%. 97 out of 100 people are failing to hit that mark. Less than 3% of Americans are actually reaching this daily requirement. So statistically speaking, it's incredibly likely that you, right now, are running low. In fact, most people aren't even hitting half of what they need. So we really need to shift our perspective here. The question you should be asking isn't whether or not you're deficient. It's, okay, just how deficient am I? To help you figure out exactly where your cellular health stands, we're going to count down 7 bodily warning signs detailed in the source material. Think of this as a diagnostic roadmap for your own body. Let's kick things off with sign number 7, constipation and the gut connection. It turns out potassium directly controls your body's smooth muscles, and your colon is basically one long smooth muscle. Now, in a medical setting, if this drops too low, it gets serious. There's a condition called paralytic ileus, where the small intestine literally becomes paralyzed. The source explains that extreme physical trauma, like going through surgery, causes a massive spike in stress hormones like cortisol. That stress response rapidly flushes potassium right out of your system. If your tank was already low, that sudden drop can paralyze your intestines. This is exactly why you'll see hospitals giving potassium IV drips right after surgery. Moving right along to sign number 6, bloating and water retention. You know, whenever we feel puffy, we usually blame our last meal. We hear too much sodium, right? But the biology tells a completely different story. Electrolytes are a delicate balancing act. Sodium's job is to hold water in, but potassium's job is to release that water out. So the source material argues that you probably don't have a sodium-only problem. You just lack the potassium needed to counterbalance it and flush that trapped fluid out of your system. Next up is sign number 5, frequent urination and excessive thirst. Normally, if you're constantly running to the bathroom at night and feeling unquenchably thirsty, people immediately assume diabetes, right? Well, low potassium actually slows down your kidney's ability to concentrate urine, so you just end up aggressively flushing out diluted water. But actually, don't discount the blood sugar connection. Deep inside your pancreas, you have these beta cells that regulate insulin, and guess what? They are entirely dependent on potassium to function. This is exactly why prediabetics are almost always found to be severely deficient in this vital mineral. All right, we are at sign number 4, tingling and numbness. So you get this tingling in your hands and feet. Doctors often look at this and think, peripheral neuropathy or maybe a severe B vitamin deficiency. But our source indicates this is frequently a straightforward electrical failure. Think of your nervous system as a giant electrical grid. It literally needs potassium to generate the spark, the actual electrical charge that lets nerve impulses travel. When that charge drops, the grid fails. And since those nerves connect straight to your muscles, that electrical failure turns into debilitating cramps in your skeletal muscles or worse, your heart. Down to sign number 3, a high pulse rate. To show how fast your lifestyle can trigger this, the source shares a great, super relatable story. The speaker and his wife were the absolute last people left at this fantastic Italian restaurant. They had just crushed a massive, carb-heavy pasta dinner. Right as they're finishing up, the waiter rolls over a fully stocked dessert cart and says, "Listen, before we throw these out, do you guys want to sample any of these?" And of course, not wanting to waste good food, they tried literally every single sugar-filled dessert on that cart. Now, what happens next biochemically is wild. When you flood your system with sugar and refined carbs like that, your body's demand for potassium goes completely vertical. You become instantly deficient as your body scrambles to process all that glucose. And one of the very first signs of that sudden drop, a laboring heart. You go home, put your head on the pillow, and you can physically hear and feel your heart pounding heavily. Boom, boom, boom. It's working in absolute overdrive because you've just stripped it of its essential electrical currency.
Which brings us right into sign number 2, heart palpitations.
Whether it's skipped beats or irregular rhythms, this happens because your heart's biological pacemaker desperately needs electrolytes to keep its voltage steady. And this is where it gets super interesting. Down at the cellular level, you have this tiny mechanism called the sodium-potassium pump. It builds the electrical charge for your heart and muscles. But here's the catch, it can't work alone. It needs ATP, or cellular energy, which relies entirely on a different mineral, magnesium. So you can't just fix one deficiency. Your body needs a complete, harmonious electrolyte balance for this whole shebang to work. And here we are, sign number 1, the ultimate red flag. It is absolutely crazy how easily we normalize feeling terrible, isn't it? We're talking about persistent, unyielding fatigue, deep muscle weakness, just feeling incredibly heavy, sluggish, and dealing with severe mental fog. The major clue here is that this exhaustion does not get better no matter how much you sleep. People are constantly brushing this off, saying, oh, I'm just getting older, or work is just stressful. But no, actually, this is the ultimate sign that your cells are quite literally starved for the electrical charge that potassium provides. Before we wrap up this explainer, let's zoom out for a second and look at one more massive systemic issue from the source data. There is an incredibly common chronic disease affecting over 120 million Americans. And astonishingly, medical experts have spent the last 50 years and billions of dollars only to classify 90% of these cases as having an unknown cause. They say they just can't find the root trigger. That mysterious rampant disease? It's high blood pressure. So I'm going to leave you with this to chew on. Considering 97% of the population completely fails to meet their daily potassium needs, and knowing how deeply potassium controls fluid retention, muscle contraction, and your heart's electrical rhythm, could this massive, widespread potassium shortage be the exact missing puzzle piece behind our modern high blood pressure epidemic? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and stay curious.